Welcome back to Brighter World. Well, technically, this will be maybe the first video you'll see because I had some videos previously, which maybe you saw. Now they're in the archive. But I kind of wanted to think more intentionally about what's on the page. You know what I mean? Or page, channel. I don't know. Show. To better structure it, make it not too, I don't know. My partner was like, it's fine. You're overthinking it. Just do the thing. But I guess I want it to be structured in a way that seems helpful to you guys or interesting, or, I recently learned of audience as who you serve, who you're giving to. And obviously this might not be a gift to you. You might be like, this still makes no sense, but I just wanted to be intentional about what I was giving, if that makes sense. Giving in terms of vibes and also giving in terms of how you're spending your time with me. So what I think I'm going to do is have kind of flip, do weekly videos, flip flop between reading a previous blog post. This one is on Ray's "Where is my husband?" It's part of my one thing I loved part of my blog. Also, did you like those vocals? I did karaoke last week and I was like, I really can't sing. Some people can sing, I cannot. But alas. Anyway, so this is about Where's My Husband? I think every other week I'll read one. And I have 4 different series. So I have one thing I loved in culture, which is the one I've been doing the longest. I have one on Richard Pryor because I'm doing writing an essay collection on Richard Pryor. I have one that's just culture recommendations. Maybe I would read that one still. So every month I'm this is what I'm reading, watching, listening to. And then I have one on poetry, a poem that I really liked. And I kind of reflect on that. And so I'll pick one, or if you ever have thoughts on which one you would like to hear, I'll put the link to my blog on the YouTube channel, and then you could just kind of flip through and see which one you wanted to hear read. And I don't know. I used to do this on my podcast, and basically it just, there's a lot of association moments sometimes. And so if you want to hear more about one, you could put it in the comments, and then I'll definitely just pick one of those next time. And so I'll do that every other week. And in the weeks in between, no promises on this because I'm still figuring out if I want to do this. But when I finished my PhD, I stopped reading academic texts and was more just reading creative nonfiction, which I love, and fiction and poetry, more creative writing. But I found in my essay collection so far that being able to pull from academic text is super interesting, and I like the meat of it. I don't think it's the most accessible and in that sense the most useful form of writing, because it can be so dense, but I find that it kind of causes my wheels to spin. I start thinking about what does this mean, and how does it apply to the things that I'm interested in, which is mostly Black culture, pop culture, art, movies, books, TV, film, or did I say films? Yeah, movies, books, TV. Or I guess are my main forms of art I consume. Music sometimes. And so how do I kind of think about this more academic stuff enfolded in that, especially Black academic stuff. Black philosophy is so interesting to me because a lot of times it puts language to the things I've been thinking about, and these things that are just in the air that feel kind of superfluous, or just kind of I feel this way, but nobody is saying anything about it. I also recently learned the term racial gaslighting, which is so helpful. One of my teachers was telling me about it, and it's just that made my camera shake. Oh gosh, okay. So helpful. It was very helpful. Because it's this idea of we're not naming these things, and therefore it feels like it's just in our head, but also it's so real. And so I'm wondering if reading Black philosophy, Black academic texts would speak to that feeling. And I could just, read it. I'm looking at this because the first one that I'll read is Fred Moten's Black and Blur. And he's a poet, so his work is very, not dense in a bad way, but very, very meaty, very poetic. So next week I'll share, I read the preface. I'm looking at these annotations. Oh, what a nerd. I love being a nerd. So, I was thinking I could just every other week share what I'm reading in this. I'm reading a gajillion things all the time just to learn how to write in different ways. But share what I'm reading academically and kind of talk about the ideas as I understand them, with the preface that like I don't like with academic texts, nobody like understands 100% of what academics are saying. Except for the academic themselves, I would argue, but like, I can say like this is what I found interesting so far, and this is how I've understood it, and this is how I'm thinking about it. And I could just kind of like do an update every 2 weeks of what I've read, and that will kind of keep me kind of maybe on it with reading this alongside other things like reading academic texts. And maybe that's interesting to you, and think of like who I want my work to serve and how I want to give in my writing and in my, time. Maybe this would be interesting to other like Black weirdos, Black nerd weirdos, Black artist weirdos, and anybody else who's listening or watching and is like, yeah, that sounds cool to me too. Come hang out. But I think that that's who I want to be serving in my work, or like people that are like a little bit off the beaten path, a little bit strange, maybe queer. I am bi, which is, also very important to me, queerness. Maybe just not traditional. And if you are traditional and you're like, yeah, but I still love Black academic texts and I still want to hear about your blog, please join us. And I think this is going to be a space for Black weirdos. And then anybody else who wants to come hang out with us too, welcome and please join. So anyway, maybe that will be helpful to the Black weirdos because it's a very Black weird book. And it's kind of about the ways that philosophy, and specifically Black philosophy, show up in music, and also the way that like, so far, this is just the preface, so don't quote me, but like the way that like the violent moments and the response to that violence, so the agency and the response, shows up in music like across time. And already that's like really getting me thinking about Sinners, and just like that moment in Sinners where music is being played from all different times, all different eras of Black culture at once. And I feel very like charged or like energized or like aligned with the idea that like Black music kind of carries Black history. I saw at Toni Morrison's memorial in 2019, which is wild. That was like 6 years ago now. I went with one of my friends and they had somebody play the saxophone, and I just was like crying. I don't even really like jazz like that. Don't come for me either with that. I need to listen to more jazz. If you have jazz recs, let me know. But I was just crying. I actually like got a tattoo of somebody playing the sax because I just felt like it was such an emblem of Black culture and Black history and Black resilience. And this book seems to be kind of like speaking to that, and just sort of like what does it mean that like time is being kept in this art, like in history, and like the things that have happened back in the day are still showing up here and are being responded to, and how, so that's just the preface. Who knows what's in the book, but I'll just kind of like be giving my like updates on my reading and what I'm thinking about what he's saying in these essays. That'll be the first book, and then who knows, maybe I'll read another one if this is fun. Okay, so that's that. That will be next week. I think in here I'm just going to be flip-flopping between, let's see, what was I going to say? Between like academic texts and my blog, and just reading and thinking and sharing the process with that. If that sounds cool to you, please join. I'm trying to decide if we should make this its own video. This is sort of like an overview of what we're doing, and then I read Where's My Husband, or if I should just read Where's My Husband now. I'm just going to read now. Hang out. Hopefully this won't be so long. But thank you for listening and for hanging out with me. And that's kind of what this is. Actually, no, I'll stop here. And this will be the first one. This will be kind of like an intro of like what I'm doing. And then if I have like a different structure later, I'll just like update and do another one. But this is welcome. This is the welcome video. Thank you for being here. What we're going to do here is like half the weeks I'll be reading my blog and talking about it. Half the weeks I'll be reading academic texts and talk about it. These are the first ones. Black and Blur, which I'll talk about next week, and Where's My Husband, the Ray song, which I'll talk about in the next video. So if you're watching this, you can kind of click to opt in and watch the next one, if that sounds good to you. Okay, thank you. And that way we can kind of try to keep these short. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come hang out. If you're a Black weirdo, I love you. If you're not, if you're Black and not a weirdo, or a weirdo and not Black, or neither Black nor a weirdo, if you're still vibing with what I'm saying, come hang out. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one.